All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Curtis Rogers at the South Carolina State Library, and thank you for joining us for um, Acquisition of State Agency Publications training with Sheila Dorsey, who is our Government Documents Librarian. A few little housekeeping things I'd like to get started with. Um, like I said, I'm the communications director at the State Library, and always happy to help with these kind of training events and all kinds of outreach that we do. One thing I would like, the only time I'm going to ask you to do anything, is if you could, in the chat box, just type in what state agency you're from, and that will give everyone an idea of where everyone is from. So we've got VRD, that's vocational rehab, I think. Okay, in Clemson, DHEC, Health and Human Services, Comptroller General, PIBA, AG's office, State Treasurer, Lander, Coastal, Voc Rehab. Yep. Okay, great. Great, thank you. Good, that lets us know that the chat is working. Also, I would ask everyone to keep yourselves muted during the session. We will have time for some Q&A. At the end, there are some frequently asked questions that Sheila's going to go over to kind of help everyone with that. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that, and let's see. And if you're just joining us, if you can go ahead and mute yourself, that would be helpful. I'll go ahead and mute all. Okay, so hopefully you should still hear me. I've got my computer screen just as I need it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sheila, and she's going to go ahead and get us started.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Curtis. As Curtis said, I'm Sheila Dorsey. I'm the Government Documents Librarian at the State Library. I recognize a lot of the names, although we might not have met in person. I wanted to start by showing you a picture of our building. We are located at the corner of Senate and Bull Street. It is the building with the two lions that we refer to as Saul and Edgar. They are named after Saul Blatt and Edgar Brown, who were instrumental in the starting of the State Library, and the building dates from 1969. We are open from 8:30 to 5. That's our normal hours. And while our physical building is not open to the public right now, we are still open through phone, chat, and email. We are here always to serve other libraries. We're here to serve the public, but it's also very central to what we do that we are serving other state employees. And Curtis can go to the next slide, please. There we are. And these are some of our services. We provide research assistance, borrowing privileges, and access to electronic resources. We are part of the SC Lens Consortium, and what that means is that if you get a card to the South Carolina State Library, it gives you access to all the consortium libraries. There are 20 counties within the consortium. We provide grants research assistance that's being done through Zoom now. In normal times, we have meeting room rentals, and other agencies often will rent one of our rooms. It's a very nominal cost. We provide programs, workshops, and exhibits. And we have now a curbside pickup so that our materials and those of the consortium libraries are available. Curtis, if you can click on the South Carolina State Library at the top, that should take us to our homepage. There we go. All right. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things, mostly at the top at the taskbar. I wanted to point out that Programs and Services tab, when you go into that, you will see where you can make, oh, thanks. You can see about midway down under South Carolina residents, you can go into grants research, and that will allow you to make an appointment, a Zoom appointment with Don Mullins, one of our research librarians, who gives one-on-one service and information about grants and grant writing. You can do things like sign up for a library, or sign up for our newsletters. It shows you how to sign up for library cards, borrowing materials, and all sorts of things. And back up to that taskbar on the top, you can also see our events calendar. And that will show you all our past, present, and upcoming events. It's a great little calendar. You can modify it for what you want to, the type of audience you may be, or all the links will bring you to registration. It's a great calendar. There's also a contact us, and back on the very home page on the start, if we go back there, the box over to the right, it shows you kind of how to get in contact with us immediately during this time. You can search our online catalog, use our curbside pickup service, our availability, but I especially, just because it's so short, it's a great little video. It's only about a minute, so we wanted to show you our curbside pickup service. Yeah. Get back to the PowerPoint. And I really wanted to just go over a little bit about our services, because like I said, we are here to serve state employees, and a lot of, yeah, yeah, I see your comment. A lot of our state employees don't even realize that they have all this available to them. And now with the consortium, you have access to so many different collections. So get your library card and check out catalogs. And we can go to our next slide, please. And this is kind of the main focus of why we got together today, and it's to discuss the South Carolina State Documents Depository. And the basis is in state law. The South Carolina State Library is the official state depository for all state publications. Our role is directed by the South Carolina Code of Laws, Title 60, Chapter 2, Sections 10, 20, and 30. And Curtis, if you'll just click on that, and that takes us to that page in the legislature site that has the law. I wanted to just, before we talk about the state law, kind of help you understand why we developed this training. We started out because we found out that we were having a serious problem in getting our documents. We recognized that state agency employees change frequently, and the processes, the procedures, and the purpose of why things get done were getting lost in the shuffle. We found that agencies really didn't have any knowledge of what they're supposed to share with us. They didn't know that they were even supposed to share publications with us, and they didn't understand what they were supposed to do. We found, that reasons included retirement, there was loss of procedure, the advent of electronic publishing, there's lack of definition of what the publications were, there's lack of ease in sending them to us. And there wasn't anyone really designated in that role to send us publications. And there's so many state agencies, there's about 135 listed, and that doesn't even include all the quasi-agencies, the colleges and the universities, the sections, divisions that can get very, very complex. And we were finding it difficult to even establish who our best contact person was. And we, just like y'all, have such limited staff. So we wanted to do what we could do to make it easier for state agencies and state-supported colleges and universities to share their documents with us. And to understand why it's important to us and really important to the agencies. And that's how this training came about. But once we analyzed all that, we realized we had to figure out our own responsibilities and our own role. And that led us to really study the state law. So just kind of make sure that we understood what our responsibility was to y'all. And this is the South Carolina Code of Laws. Like I said, it's Title 60, Chapter 2, Sections 10, 20, and 30. And this establishes the depository system, and it tells us our responsibilities. It tells what the agency responsibilities are, and it's very clear and very concise. I'm just going to summarize it. We can let Curtis go through it, and we can go back to that next slide. And I've got a summary of, there we go. I'll start off with Section 10. Section 10 is really definitions. It defines what a complete depository is. That would be us. We're the state library, and we collect at least one copy of all the publications. So we are a complete depository. It defines what the depository system is, which are the satellite libraries that also collect documents. It states that electronic and print documents are selected. Selective depository, that is also the satellite libraries that only collect some items, the things that we send them. And most importantly, it really defines what a state publication is, which has been a big part of what we're trying to explain to agencies. Section 20, State Library as official state depository of all state publications. It designates the state library as that and states that the state library is the main collection and distribution point and responsible for organizing, cataloging, and distributing those print and electronic resources. Section 30, state agencies, departments, and state-supported institutions to provide complete copies of the typo state publications with some exceptions. And it states that agencies provide 15 copies of printed publications within 15 days and an electronic copy within 15 days of posting on websites. And there are some exceptions to that, but that's the thrust of the law. And it, like I said, it makes great definitions, and it explains our role and the role of the agencies in helping us fulfill that. And the next slide, we'll go there. Like I said, we're the main distribution point, we're that hub, but what many people don't know is that there are, within that depository system, it is a system, and there is the state library, and there are 11 depository libraries that we share documents with. The depository libraries are located all around the state. They're mostly academic institutions, but there are 2 public libraries that are part of the depository system, and that's Greenville and Spartanburg. And this explains why we asked for those 15 copies. Because we keep 3 here at the state library. If we can get those 15 copies, the first 3, no matter how many we get, those first 3 go to us. If we get that 15, we can distribute one of each of those publications to the 11 depository libraries around the state. And then you wonder, well, that's 14. Where's that 15th go? That 15th goes to the Library of Congress. And so it becomes a part of their collection too. Let's go to that. And let's go to that next slide. I know we've got a couple of our depository librarians here. I was really excited to see that y'all came. So this is the big question. What are state documents? We get this a lot. Please explain what we're supposed to collect. Well, for the purpose of the state library, documents are defined as publications or in print or electronic format issued by the state, agencies or departments, or state-supported colleges, which are intended for public use or general distribution. State government documents include annual reports, agency newsletters, maps, research papers, books, public university catalogs, pamphlets, directories, magazines, and many other items. And this is the key point when we're defining what we collect. These are publications that are intended for public distribution or maybe to the distribution to the General Assembly. They're outward-facing publications. They are not anything internal from an agency. So it excludes things like inter-office and intra-office communications. For example, we don't collect email, we don't collect legal documents, we don't collect records, your agency records. That goes to archives, and that's a central point that we are trying to convey, that while all these are documents, we focus on the publications from agencies. Archives focuses on agency records. And we want those public-facing records, things that you're not ashamed to put on your website. That's what we collect. And let's go to that next slide. I'm just going to talk a little bit about archives to really drive home that point. Publications versus records, how to identify. Publications, what we collect, are outward facing. They're published or created by agencies and intended for distribution to the public or General Assembly. Archives, South Carolina Department of Archives and History, collects your agency records, and it's based on those record retention schedules. Record series are identifiable types of records like legislative files, legal opinions, correspondence, etc. Every record series has its own unique retention schedule that's found in the Archive Summary Guide to State Records. And record series and retention schedules are determined by a cooperative effort between the specific agency and the archive. And we're not gonna go into those sites, but I think I forgot to mention, you will get a copy of this PowerPoint, and where you see those highlights, you can go in and see those types of record schedules. Getting back to the records versus publications, I want to point out there is some slight overlap, because archives also collect state publications. They only collect one copy though, and that gets to the heart of the difference. We don't collect internal agency records, but although archives will collect one copy of publications, the central difference is that, of course, they don't collect those multiple copies. They can't provide circulation services, and they don't distribute around the state. That's not their role. We provide those services. So that's some distinctions between what we're trying to do and archives. And the next slide. Why do we collect state documents? This might be my favorite slide. There are legal, historical, and informational purposes, and flat out state law, that's legal. State law established the State Documents Depository with the South Carolina State Library as the main collection and distribution point. So that's just central. We do it because we are required. We're supposed to do it. Historical reasons, documents provide a historical record of the agency and the work it does and the employees who serve the state. There are informational purposes, research purposes. We're meeting the information needs of government and government employees, other libraries, and the general public. In doing this, we're fulfilling our mission to identify public documents, organize them, preserve them, and make them obtainable, available to the public and to you. My favorite reason is one that seems to resonate with state employees as I talk to them, and that has to do with by collecting these documents, we're really preserving a history of the state agency and the people who serve the state and who work in those agencies often for decades. Things like reports, public information pamphlets, books, they'll have the names of the state employees who worked on those in them. And when we see these, we recognize ourselves. I mean, this is the work that we do. We go in and we do every day. So in a way, it's preserving those people. It's preserving a record of the people that serve the state and that serve others in the state. And I find that there's a bit of nobility in that, and it's very meaningful to me that we preserve that. And the flat out reason, of course, is the law. But I find something very deep and meaningful in what we're doing. Okay, next slide. South Carolina State Documents Depository, the print and digital collections. Now we're going to get into the actual collections themselves. Our print collection can be searched in our online catalog, SC Lens, and our electronic documents can be found in our digital collection. And the photos you see here reflect both collections. That's why it's hard to talk about the state depository system as a whole, because it's two collections, and you have to consider both collections when you're talking about the depository system. The photo on the left represents the physical collection. You can see one of our rows, one of many, and that collection is cataloged and can be searched through our SC Lens catalog. And those items are those that are available for checkout if there's more than one copy. If there's only one copy, we can't check it out. The physical items also include paper, CDs, DVDs, anything that you can hold, any physical items. On the right-hand side, you see the digital collection of depository items. It's a completely different collection. It's in a different area on our website, and it holds only digital copies of items that we've scanned from the collection, or that things that are born digital and we obtain or are sent to us. Next slide. I'll give you a few facts about our print collection. The web address is sclens.org. This collection uses a unique cataloging system that was created, I believe, by the State Library of Florida in 1970, and then we revised it in 1982 for our use. It uses letters and numbers to create classification numbers based on the agency name, type of publication, geographical location, etc. Like if a county, you can tell, if you can understand the cataloging system, you can tell what county that publication might be talking about. And this ain't your Dewey system. This is it's a completely unique system for our state and really for our library. You won't find it anywhere else. There are over 100,000 documents cataloged, and actually since I updated this PowerPoint, I did a more informal estimate, and we're probably more between 130 and 140,000 documents. Of course, we request for 15 copies of documents. 3 are for the state library, of course, and the other copies are distributed to the depository system libraries and the Library of Congress. And as I've said, copy 1 is never circulated, but we do circulate our documents. Copies 2 and 3 are circulated if they're available, but we don't circulate anything before 1920 because we've determined that that's just too rare and we want to preserve those. And if you just click on that SC lens, I just want to show you what the catalog looks like real quick. We won't do any samples for the interest of time, but I do want to state that if you ever want to go through this, I think we could probably set up a Zoom meeting, or we could talk on the phone. I'm always available for that. Oh, thanks, Curtis. We can search through different formats. Of course, there's keyword, author, title searches. You can see SC Lens, all the different SC Lens libraries, and the state library is down there. You can search one or all. You can search just the state library. You can search throughout SC Lens. And going back to getting that library card, this gives you access to all those materials. And so it's great for documents, but it's wonderful for your personal use too. And now we can go back to the next slide. Yeah, digital collection. The web address is dc.statelibrary.sc.gov. It includes state documents depository. There are some federal documents. We have a South Carolina book collection, digital book collection, and there's many more. If we can go into the DC State Library and scroll down just a bit, Curtis, a little bit more. Yeah, those are the different collections, and you'll see the next to last, that state documents depository. That's a specific one we're interested in. And click on that one for me. There we go. And scroll down just a bit. Okay, there we go. You start to see all the agencies. We have over 150 agencies, universities, and committees represented in our collection. Some agencies include the sub-agencies, divisions, offices. There are over 27,500 documents currently available digitally. This is growing. We even have a backlog. We probably have more than, probably closer to 30,000 now. And we have a large backlog. What we've tried to do is keep up with what's coming up currently, but things were collected in the past too. So as we have time, we're going and putting those things in the depository. You can see all the different agencies. I wasn't going to do this, but Curtis is being so great about this. Could you maybe go to the State Housing Authority, go down, or you can click on any agency, that anyone would work. Oh boy, not that. No, that's okay. Okay. Well, and if you go down, you can see within the General Assembly, under state agencies, of course, all that's within the General Assembly. So we have links to that. The collections in this community, that could be, just general documents, or it can be a sub-agency or a department that we've placed all their documents in one collection. And then down, you see the recent submission. So we're constantly collecting these documents, adding to this collection. And also, again, If you ever want, I can walk through this with you individually. You can see your agency documents. Um, well, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but a lot of agencies want to know, what do you have of ours? And they're shocked when they see both. We used to be able to show the physical collection, but they're shocked when they see both the physical collection and the breadth of stuff that we have that's in our digital collection. Now, that's a good one. See the collections in this community, the different parts of what you might have that you didn't know that we were collecting. Because sometimes it's not what you send us, it's what we grab. And I'll talk about that too. But there's the newsletter. It's great. And of course, this is all immediately accessible. It's the big difference between our physical collection and our digital collection is we make things immediately available through this. If we can go back to our slide, and the next slide, and here, how do we obtain state documents? How did y'all get our stuff is what you're wondering. Well, we order documents annually from the state legislature. Some things like the South Carolina Legislative Manuals, we order the House and Senate Journal. We search agency websites for publications. These are manual searches. We'll go through a website and maybe click on the publications page and pull documents, PDFs that we find there. We acquire documents that are mentioned in news reports. So we might subscribe to an agency newsletter or an email list. Even if it's a digital newsletter, there might be mention of a publication and maybe a link to a PDF, so we can pull it that way. Of course, agencies routinely provide us with the printed publications through mail, drop off, and pickup. I'm always happy to pick anything up, and even though we're formally closed, I go in one day a week, and I don't mind if an agency calls and says, hey, can I meet you, and they'll just hand me the documents that way. We also get documents. It's what I refer to as a desk dump, and that's what we've gotten in the past. Well, of course, not now, but there have been times in the past that an agency employee is retiring and they find they have all these publications in their desk. And they've called us and said, hey, you want our stuff? Like, yeah. In fact, a couple years ago, I think it was someone from, PRT. They were retiring, and they had a huge amount of pamphlets, park pamphlets from the 60s and 70s and 80s. And these, we didn't have any of them, or we didn't have the great majority of them, and we do collect that. And so those are now in our collection. Might just be one copy, but we've got them. So that was great. For electronic documents, agencies send us their electronic publications to our documents email. We've had this up for 2-3 years, so a lot of you might be familiar with our state documents at statelibrary.sc.gov. If you will send us, agencies themselves send us documents to that email. We've also got a web crawler. It's called ArchiveIt. We crawl about 130 agencies now. That involves harvesting those documents, adding the metadata, and putting it into our digital collections. I think there's a misconception about web crawlers that our agencies might think, oh, well, if they're crawling our website, they must have all our stuff. We might get it, but it's the most inefficient way, because the web crawler doesn't know what we collect. It doesn't know what we need. So while it might collect 100 different documents or publications, Those might also include like agendas and press releases. So we have to go through all of those, everything the web crawler collects. Of those 100 that it collects, we might really only use 20 in our collection because it can't discern between what we collect and what we don't. But if you, the agency, send us the publication, it's spot on. And I'll probably explain it again later, but it's not just, you don't just have to send us like a PDF. You could just send us a link. So that's very helpful. And let's go to our next slide. I think I'll talk more about that. How to send us your documents. When yearly, quarterly, monthly, or anytime, the process is each agency's decision. We do not dictate your process. We just want you to know that we send the print items out to the 11 depository libraries quarterly. There aren't enough to send monthly, so we just gather them and send them quarterly. Digital items are shared with our depository libraries monthly. The depository librarians that are here know they get that monthly email with the list of all the digital items we've put into our digital collections. However, thanks to Curtis, we are also now sending that list out to probably everyone who's here, everybody on our publications officers constant contact list. You're getting an email for the press release, and within the press release is a link to that list of electronic documents, digital documents. So that shows you how important it is for us to get those publications. How can you send them to us? You can ship or deliver them to our physical address, 1500 Senate Street in Columbia, 29201. And you could email digital items to us that are in PDF format at state documents at statelibrary.sc.gov. Again, you can just send us a link to the page or a link to the document. That works fine. You don't have to attach the PDF if you have it on your website. We also can pick up printed items locally. If an agency is open, even during this time, I've been able to go to some and pick up if they need me to. That's fine. As I said, it's up to each state agency how they choose to fulfill our request that they send us the documents. I would like to suggest a couple of things that might be helpful, and that's that one person is appointed to really, that this is part of their responsibilities to periodically send us those publications. That's helpful. And that when that person has that role, that they create a workflow document. And this lends itself also to a succession plan for when new people are in that role, because back when we were really getting so few documents, that was a big point that people would leave the agencies and nobody knew what to do. That role was lost. There wasn't any plan. So those are just some suggestions, but it is totally up to you how you want to do this process and when you want to send us your publications. One agency I'll point out real quick, back when we were open, I expect they're still doing it, but they would have a box, and the printed publications, at least, they just throw them in the box, call us up maybe once a year and say, come pick it up. And that's what I've been doing. And it worked. Whatever works for you works for us. All right, next slide. I think I'm okay on time. I'll try to rush through it a bit. The exceptions to the 15 copies rule, which can seem overwhelming, because it's stated if printed, all state agencies, departments, and state-supported colleges and universities must provide at least 15 copies unless, these are some of those exceptions, it's ephemera. We don't need agendas, we don't need posters, tickets, even if it's printed. If you're not sure, send it to us anyway, but we don't collect that. If you're printing less than 10 copies, of course, we only need 15. And you can call us if you need a waiver for whatever reason. An agency once called me that they said they were only printing 25 copies. Do we need 15? Said no, but I did ask for 1 copy for our collection. If a publication is born, this is a big question that comes up. If the publication is born digital and printed, do we need to send both? And yeah, for now, we are asking, even if it's born digital, if you have a formal printing budget and you're printing for distribution, we want at least the 3 copies for the state library, unless it's really a very important publication that you want distributed. If you want that distributed, yeah, we need those 15 copies. So we would like to get them. However, if you have a very limited printing budget, again, I'll go back, I already said it, but the agency that was just printing 25, they just set 1 aside for us, even if it's digitally printed. If you're formally printing it, we want to at least get that 1 copy. However, if it's intended for a committee, that's not a formal printing. Let's say you want to print out the document for all the members of the committee. That's not a formal printing. We don't need copies of that. However, we would request an electronic copy. And if you have a for purchase publication, we're not necessarily expecting 15 copies of that, something that you're trying to, as an agency, sell. But we would request maybe 3 for our collection. And anytime there's a question, you can give me a call. There can be a lot of nuances to this, so if you have any questions, just call. And next page. Our general rule, if you post it or print it, we get it. If it's printed with the intention to distribute, if it's public documents, non-internal procedures, guidelines, or correspondence, we want those public, outward-facing documents. Please, if it's formally printed, we would like to get the 15 copies so we can distribute. We can mail them, we can pick up, or you can drop off. If you post it on your website, we're not talking about social media posts. We're talking about documents that you post to your website. We do want those publications. If PDF file, you can send it to State Documents, the State Library, as you're posting to your website. Or if you're sending it as a link, that's fine too. And don't forget, even if it's electronic copies, that's important for our distribution. We don't just distribute physical copies to those 11 depositories. We distribute that electronic copy list for the depository libraries, and we send it through email. And now everybody's really getting that list through our press release. So that's great. And if you're ever in doubt if we're supposed to get something, you can send it anyway. If we don't need it, we won't collect it. We can weed it out. It's not a problem. We can make that decision. We know. And one more thing, that print, if you do send print stuff, remember that would include CDs and DVDs. I know that that's not much distributed anymore, but we do get some CDs and DVDs. Of course, only 1 copy. That's good. And next. Okay, that's pretty much the normal explanation of the depository system. But I wanted to take a couple minutes and go over our Notable State Documents Awards program. We do this annually, and it recognizes some of those amazing publications that come out of agencies, and it encourages agencies to send us their publications. And I think there's prayer. So this slide represents I'm getting an unstable flex connection. Okay. This slide represents one of our winners from 2 years ago. On the left, you see part of DNR staff that won for a publication. On the right, we had a display of a lot of of all the winning documents, a beautiful display. And next slide. Notable State Documents Awards Program. The Notable State Documents Awards Program began in 1991 to recognize exemplary state publications. It's presented annually, and the awards recognize notable documents that were released in the previous calendar year. This year's deadline is December 31st for publications produced during 2020. We do this in honor of Freedom Information Day. The awards are presented each March in a ceremony at the State Library. Of course, we weren't able to do that this past year. We had to leave our building, I think just a few days before the ceremony was to happen. So we did do a ceremony. We did it through Zoom. Curtis pulled all that together, and it was a really great ceremony. The South Carolina, if we can go to the LibGuide, and some of the depository librarians might recognize this. And that third tab is for the Notable State Documents Program. And as I said, nominations are accepted throughout the year. You can send a nomination in with your 15 copies. You say, I want to nominate this, or you can upload a nomination to a submission form we have online. You can send it to me by email, and some nominees are selected by the librarians here themselves, because all of these things pass through either a process we do or the physical document itself. And right under Curtis, if you go down a little bit, see the award logo. If you click on that, it will lead you to the nominations format in the SurveyMonkey form. And you can just go through that. I know some of you have gotten your nominations through SurveyMonkey. And if you go back to the Notable Documents page, and I just want to point out at the top is that Zoom ceremony that we did this year, if you're interested in watching it. I'm not sure what's going to happen this upcoming year, but if it's a Zoom ceremony, we'll post it just like that. So if you haven't sent in your nominations, if you want to nominate one of your documents, please send it in. I'm collecting all of those. And of course, I tend to talk a lot, so I can go over the next slide, start with the frequently asked questions, or does anybody have any questions? I'd rather get in any personal questions you might have. If not, I'll go into the FAQs.
And like Sheila said, if you have a question, if you want to unmute yourself to ask, that's fine. Or if you want to type it into the chat box, we're monitoring that, so feel free to do that. Sheila, a few things I wanted to mention throughout your presentation that I was kind of paying attention to is that if any of you out there work on your agency's accountability report, you'll notice in the last 2 or 3 years, they've actually got a check mark for you to check off and say that you are providing your documents to the South Carolina State Library. So that's something that is important to recognize. Also, one of the things as Sheila was talking, you know, I've been at the State Library for 27 years, and it's difficult for me to keep all this straight. So just always remember that if you go to our website and scroll down to the bottom, you can always contact us. You can chat with the librarian during normal work hours. You can send us an email. We're happy to talk with you anyway to figure out what it is you're trying to do, or even if you're trying to find something in one of the catalogs, feel free to reach out to us and we can provide you with that information.
Absolutely. We have many access points. Well, I guess I'll just, are there any questions? Anybody?
I didn't see any questions come in, so that
Okay.
means you're doing a great job.
Okay, I'm staying under time. Okay. One of the questions we often get is, what e-formats do you accept? At this time, we're primarily adding publications that are in PDF format. We ask that if you have a publication in another format, such as a PowerPoint, please convert it into a PDF for submission. We do sign up for the agency e-newsletters, because even though we don't save web pages or e-newsletters, some of the articles can lead us to PDF. We're able to add publications in MP3 audio format, like public service announcements. But if you have a publication that's in a document in another format, just contact us and we might be able to figure out something. And next slide. What if the file is too large to send by email? I've gotten that before. There's several options. The main one is, if it's on your website, just send us the title and a link to the web page where that new publication can be found. That's really the easiest way. You can send me an email, or preferably send it to the state documents at State Library. We monitor that every day and pull the documents or the links that lead us to the document. You can also send by email in smaller batches of PDF at a size Outlook will handle. I've had an agency send me PDFs, just a few at a time. We also accept publications by secure cloud-based file sharing products. Our IT department prefers share-based. With this product, we send a link and you upload the files to the file sharing site. Many agencies prefer to use their own file sharing service and will upload the files and send us the link. And last, you can place a large file or files on a flash drive and drop it off at the library, and we'll securely transfer the files or return your flash drive. Truly, I think if it's on your website, you don't need to worry about sending it to us. If it's in PDF format on your website, send us a link to your easiest way. And if you have any problems, just call us. We'll figure out a way to get your documents. And next one, that's a big question. Do you accept past publications, either tangible or electronic? Yes, we do. If the physical publication is older than 5 years, if you can provide us with 3 copies, that's all we need. If you can provide us with 1 copy, that's good, but not the 15. If the older publication is in electronic format, just send us a PDF or a link. We don't need that 15 because the depositories aren't required to keep their state publications longer than 5 years. So there's no point. How do I know if you have a specific publication from our agency? It would be either in our SC Lens catalog or in our state document depository digital collection. You'd have to check both. There's a curiosity about the digital collection. If you go into SC Lens and you can find a document, and we've got an electronic copy, it will lead you to the digital depository. It doesn't work the other way around. And that's because when we get these digital copies, electronic copies of documents, and put them in that digital collection, our cataloging librarian, Wesley Sparks, who's amazing, he actually puts a record, almost always, not every time, but almost always, he'll put a record in SC Lens for that document. So you might find it in SC-Lens, and it will, by hitting electronic resources, it will take you to the digital collection, but it doesn't work the other way. And next question. Do you have a list of the documents you collect? No. There's no standard or comprehensive list because the documents are collected based on what an agency publishes, and that varies year to year. The only consistent publications are the required annual reports, serials, magazines that publish. We've got a short list, but the easiest way is to go to your agency's specific digital collections page to see examples of what we collect. What is the difference between a records officer and a publications officer? The term publications officer is an informal term created by us to use for our agency contact list, that constant contact list. Records officer is a formal designation for the person who deals with those agency records that are turned over to the South Carolina Department of Archives and History, and it's by that series and schedule. So they're different roles. Is there one? Oh, no, that's it. We got through it. Thank you very much. Thanks so much to Curtis. He was so helpful to me setting this up and pointing out everything. If you need to contact me, that's my contact information. Of course, as Curtis said, from our homepage, you can contact any of us about anything. We're here to help you. Are there any questions? Anything else? I know that's a lot of information. So.
It is, and the good thing is that we have recorded this session, and so we will be able to send it out to everyone. So folks who weren't able to see today's session can certainly review it in their own during their own time. And I didn't see any more questions come in through the chat, so I think we're actually right on schedule and wrapping up right on time.
Okay. Well, that either gave you a lot of information or you're so overwhelmed you've got to process it.
Well, the important thing to remember is anyone can contact you if they need any help.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Have a good lunch. Thank you so much for signing up and coming.